All right, thank you everybody for joining us today on this beautiful Tuesday, March 2nd. We are with Action Coach's very own Andy O'Brien and Tanner O'Brien joining us today. We hope that what we provide today is going to be informative for you. And again, after the workshop, we'll be sure to send the PowerPoint, and I'll be sure to include Andy's contact information as well. Go ahead, take it away, Andy.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Francesca, and welcome. I see some familiar names, Angela and Lillian. It's good to see you or hear you today. You guys have your cameras off. And again, like always, we want questions. We want you guys to search for yourselves for any question that you have on anything that we say that allows you to have peace of mind. So let's jump right in. So one of the things, I know I say that too much and I keep getting corrected, but have you guys ever heard of the demise curve at all? Yes, no, if you could use your little characters to, raise your hands as we do this. But as we look at what's been going on, we are still in the demise curve. And if you really look at it closely, it's in trouble, not aware, in trouble, in control, and lost business. And then there's liquidation. And I think Francesca, Tanner, anybody that's working with the SBDC or coaching in general, we're going to see up to 1 million bankruptcies and liquidations. And that's really, really sad. But when we talk about it today, even if you've lost control or if you're in trouble in control, you can recover from what's going on here. We can recover. And why is that important? Why is that the most important thing? Because we must find ourselves a way to fight back, right? Because, we learned about Snowvid 21. I know everybody's laughing when I say that, but what a crazy, crazy couple of weeks here. And I just want you guys to know, my joke is I got to shovel snow again in Iowa, so no complaining from me anymore. Let's look at areas of our business, the 3 F's. How many of you guys know what the 3 F's stand for in business?
I don't.
All right. Flight, freeze, and fight. What we have to remember is many people have flighted off, flown, have just like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. A lot of people that froze early on, like, oh, this isn't a big deal. It's only going to be a couple of weeks. If they didn't, I know you guys hate the word pivot, but they froze in time. We need to get rid of the flight and the freeze. We're in it. The boats are burned. We must continue to move forward and ask for help any chance we get. So let's do this. The point of power. I'm going to go through some things today when we talk about mindset. So if we talk about the point of power, and I call it the line of decision, who do you know that blames everybody for their problems, makes excuses why it happens, and denies that they have anything else to do with it? Do you know that person? My question to you is it you? Is it you? Sorry, my chat box is open. Okay, that was funny, Francesca. But here's the deal. Blame, excuses, and denial. As we go through today, I'm asking you guys to be above the point of power, right? Ownership, accountability, and responsibility. Ownership is today. Accountability is in the future. Responsibility is in the past. Own it. Because if you're above the point of power, you're not the victim. If you're below the point of power, you're not the victor. So I ask all of you to be above the point of power today. All right, I know. As you might recognize, Tanner's on this call. He's with Action Coach Wilco. He is our operating officer, and he is my number one son. And he can tell you that this is a hot button for me. I know. Most of you guys, do you guys have children? Have you ever heard, I know mom, I know dad, or your employees, or your spouses, I know. I get it. I get it all the time. But the question about it is we must get rid of the I know today. I'm going to talk to you about leadership. I'm going to talk to you about it today. I need you to understand, I'm going to tell you things you already know. What I need you to do is to get rid of your I know mindset and use terms of how good are you at it. If you know it, you should be doing it. So let's work together on this. Make sense? Excellent. And also, we're going to have some fun today. I think I'm funny. Most people don't, but you know, we're going to have some fun. We're going to talk about real business strategies, real leadership points and failures in leadership, especially through COVID. All right, virtual leadership. We have to learn to lead differently. Continue to learn to lead differently. We must influence people rather than command them. Outcomes, others, ourselves, right? OKRs. Remote leadership model, technology as a tool. How many of you guys here today were fully into Zoom in March of last year? Oh my gosh, it's a year ago. How many of you were into Zoom fully? Let's have you fill in the chat box. How many of you are using it every day for business? Nope. Got a nope. Anybody else? Periodically. Excellent. That is the fact that all people went through, except for us coaches that were coaching in different area. Not because we were ahead of the curve, but because our model showed us how to do this earlier. Right? So it's all about technology. And again, we have to have a servant leadership mindset. And that doesn't mean you're subservient. It means you're just servant. All right, let's jump in. Leadership first, location second. Rule number 1. This is the most important thing. All right, timeless principles of leadership don't change. So I want you guys to write this down really quickly. And if I'm going to have somebody be my scribe, but let's talk about the 5 levels of leadership really quickly. Number 1, which is the lowest level of leadership, is called position. It is the lowest. Level 2 is permission. Level 2 is all about somebody you're working with or those that are around you have given you permission to lead them, right? You guys signed up for a workshop. You have signed up to be here. You have allowed me to coach you and you've given me permission to do this presentation. Number 3 is results. People results. You have gotten results from the people around you. Number 4 is people development. Number 4 is people development. You're developing other leaders around you. And if you're not writing this down, write this down. Being a leader is not about building more followers. Being a leader is about building more leaders. And number 5, pinnacle, where you are looked up upon all the time. Pinnacle is about looked up upon all the time. Those are timeless principles. The 4 common questions remote leaders ask themselves are, how do we know people are really working? Are we getting enough social interaction? Are we getting good feedback? And can we be as effective as we were co-located? So I know this sounds kind of funny because we've been doing it for a year. So anybody have any questions on those? Anybody think these are hokey? No? All right, perfect. Perfect. So what we have learned here with number 4 is people dove into work so hard that we started seeing burnout because they were working more instead of less. They were working more because their computer was constantly on. They didn't want to miss anything. They were working late at night. So we know that they were able to get more done in the beginning, but is it still true today? So rule 2, we must lead differently. You and I, Francesca, Joe, all the people at the SBDC, we have had to change the way that we are leading. Because if you look at it, 80% of white collar managers have at least one direct report who works in a different location. Very true fact. There are 2 major repercussions as leaders. The methods of communication that enabled them to succeed in the past have now changed. And I used this example the other day. Okay, for ease of use, I'm 52. Okay, I remember the phone on the wall that was the rotary phone, right? And so today we have this major gap between Gen Y, millennials, us, and baby boomers, because everything is changing. And I'm going to put the last one up here. We must Communicate with people on the level that they need to be communicated with. So if you in a company, you use text or you use Messenger or you use that, we have to make sure everybody's on the same pages. How are we going to communicate for work? Right? All of you are probably the same as me. I got an iPad, I got a computer, and I got a phone, and they all come to me all at the same time. So whether it's email, messaging, or it's LinkedIn messaging, or it's Facebook messaging, or, you know, I mean, good for goodness sakes, maybe it's smoke signals and a camel coming to the window, but we have to communicate with people on that level. And the act of leadership has not changed that much. We must do the same things to lead other people. We must bring them along so that they see the value in what we're doing, so that they continue to give us permission, but not just permission, they continue to follow and build themselves up with results and development. Number 3, changes interpersonal dynamics. All right, people, I'm going to ask for you guys to get on the chat box, take yourselves off mute. How many of you guys looked at this and went, yay, I don't have to talk to anybody anymore in person? Anybody on this call like that? How many of you guys have been like, oh man, just get to the point when you're conversating with others? How many of you are like me who just communicate on all different levels, but I'm an in-person guy. I love shaking hands, fist bumps, feet, elbows. I'm a hugger. Don't take that wrong, but that's just how I am. I just like to be around people, but we must start having this virtual. Now, I know all of you have your screens off for whatever reason it is, but part of the virtual leadership is they need to see, because if you recall, in leadership, in communication, write this down, 55% of what people hear and see is your body language. 38% of what they hear and see is the flexion in your voice. And 7% of what happens is in the words you choose to use. We must take a look at it differently. We must ensure your message is easily understood. I teach DISC. I am a DISC practitioner. If you've never done Myers-Briggs or the animals or the colors or any of the DISC or bank code, here's the deal. I am trained to teach in 4 languages, right? Our communication style, which makes it the most differently, is we speak in our native tongue. So whatever our communication styling is or personality is, we speak to people in that and we expect them to listen that way. That is not the case today. We must speak in the tongues of those around us. And for some of you, maybe your people are sarcastic or have cynicism, or maybe they just talk straight smack. But again, you have to communicate on some level. All right, use technology as a tool, not a barrier. And thank you guys. I love that. Yes, perfect. All right, we have to use it as a tool. Remote leadership model depicts 3 inner working gears that work together to propel remote work. Leadership and management gear, tools and technology, skills and impact gear. So leadership management, basic fundamentals of leading behaviors, right? Agendas, asking people for feedback, bringing people into the conversation. As you guys can see in coaching, what we're trying to do is to engage you at a different level, right? Some of you guys are maybe watching this, doing a work, looking at something else, but the idea behind it is we're trying to engage you to bring you into the conversation so that you take learnings away. Tools and technology, that's it right here. You guys can't see what I have here, but I've got a screen here, a screen here, and a screen in the middle. I've got a microphone and a camera and a light. Why? Because it allows us to communicate on a different level, right? Yes, I have my collared shirt, my sweatshirt on because, you know, it's cold in the house right now. And apparently I've gotten soft. And again, skill. How many of you guys have ever had to say, hey, you're on mute? Hey, you're on mute. Hey, you're on mute. Or you're waving your hands trying to get people's attention. This
Yes.
all happened, right? This was all the craziness that has happened over the last 12 months. Again, we have to make it, we can't, what we're starting to see, what ends up happening is people are getting frustrated with others because they do that. The fact of the matter is, embrace that. Use it for fun. Don't call people out because you don't like it. People are different. They don't know that the space bar is the mute bar. All right, number 5, focus, people. Focus, focus, focus. Barriers equal isolation, lack of environmental cues, less repetition of messages. Okay, so I'm going to pick on Tanner a little bit because I can. Whereas when I communicate, they literally have to have either my wife or Tanner has to learn to translate what I'm saying because sometimes it doesn't make any sense at all. And then there's Tanner who communicates and he says the same thing 4 times. I have to ask him, are you trying to explain it to me or yourself? We need to communicate with others in different areas. I get so excited. I mispronounce words. Sometimes that happens, but we must focus on that. Others, right? So think of it like this. When you're looking for outcomes, you systemize the process, you humanize the experience. So as you look at this, we're leading through people. We are more influential when we focus on others. So tell me, Francesca, how was today? What did you gain from today? At the end, when I go, hey, for ease of use, tell me what number 1 learning did you have from today? This is focusing on you. So you know what you learned, so others know what you learned and what others, oh, I learned that too. Because sometimes I'll ask how many other people had other things on their list until somebody else said something. It's focusing on them, ourselves, our beliefs, and our assumptions. As much as I'd like to think I'm the most important person in the history of the world, I am constantly reminded daily that is not the case. That is not the case. You, the clients, the people that are looking for learnings, you are the most important. But who we are and how we lead is important whenever we work with people, right? That's the key to it. Number 6, and again, I know you guys know this, that were here last week. I talk really, really fast. We're going to send you a PDF of this. And we only have an hour, and I'm sorry, Francesca will turn me off when she's ready. So I want to make sure we can get to this and get to questions and answers, because I could talk all day on leadership, talk about the 21 levels of leadership, being a person of influence. But we're talking about leading successfully requires achieving many types of goals. Organizational outcomes, clear targets, and frequent discussions with the team. We meet once a week. And we talk almost every day. People must know how and what they do fits into the work and success of others. It is really interesting in any organization. I'm going to draw on the board here really quick. Hopefully you'll be able to see some of it. Let me just get this here. But in business, there's a circle. And I want you guys to know that the business sits at the top. Your team is on my right-hand side. The customers are at the bottom and the business is here. Just like people in your business, the business cannot run without the team. The team cannot function without the customers. The customers entail cannot do anything without the business. So business takes care of the team takes care of the customers take care of the business. Whoops, sorry, this was owner. I apologize, owner, you, and the business takes care of the owner. We must, in our workplace, remember that every person, every employee has a role. Just like NASA has janitors. If they don't do their roles, the shuttle, the spaceships never would take off. Right, we have to develop goals and expectation. We have to establish the rules of the game for working together and how to get support. And we have to describe, and I mean this, I know this sounds kind of hokey, but you must show people Give them expectations, what good communication looks like. Number 7. Any questions this far? If you do, I haven't seen any coming up. If you do, put them in the box. Great so far. Thank you very much. We must focus on achieving goals, not just setting them, right? SMART goals, specific, measurable, achievable, results orientated, and time bound, right? Over here, you guys can't see it, but I did this a couple weeks ago, but we had SMART goals. We did an entire workshop on what it looks like. We have it broken down. Check out our website. Then we have to look at the quantity components of the work. What does it take to achieving it? And how does a time factor into the success? I see so many people in business. They're like, yeah, I want to be $1 million business. Oh, I want to affect change in X amount of people. Well, that's all fine and dandy, but what time frame? Is it a year? Is it 5 years? Is it 3 weeks? What is it based on? We must divide the quality of our work in the time frame. So as we talked about before, we start with 3-year goals, 1-year goals. And then what we do is we set 12 milestones as we've gone through this, and we work 90 days backwards is how are we going to hit each of those milestones? And that's another conversation for another time because there's just too much information to go through there. But we must focus on the goals in business. And if our people aren't focused on the same goals, you'll never hit them. All right. Coach your team regardless of where they work. So if I recall, Angela, El Paso. So Angela, you're what, 9 hours from the Austin Metroplex? How many others are not in the Austin Metroplex? If you want to type it in the box, if you're in a different area, let us know right now. Lillian, that's right. You're from Dallas. Awesome. Awesome. Again, so we couldn't do these types of things before because nobody found value in them before. They all wanted it to be in person. Now, don't get me wrong. I want it in person too. But again, we must coach our people regardless of where they're at. And we see people, we have clients that are in Iowa and in Denver and Missouri, Oklahoma, Georgia. We've had them all over the place. My coach, one of my coaches is in Invercargill, New Zealand. And if you don't know where that is, he is the southernmost coach in the world because his next stop south is Antarctica. So we communicate on a different level now than we ever did before. Coaching is in areas most leaders feel they can improve, right? So right now, here's what I want you to make a list. What do you need to improve on? What do you need to improve on? Just make a list really quick, write 1 or 2 things down. And the 2 reasons coaching remotely is more complicated and stressful is every interaction needs to be a conscious and intentional. So I've got my screen on here. You can see my backdrop. When you're communicating with your leaders, this whole thing with the computers off doesn't work with your teams. It must be up. They must be able to see, again, we talked about it, body language, flexion, and words. They need to see this. And communicating through technology creates mental and social barriers that don't exist when in person. I would agree to disagree right now. We are seeing some major socialization through different things, whether it's, we have an event for our clients called Wine and Live, where we meet once a month with existing clients or clients that are looking at coming on board with us. And it's just not a free-for-all, but all the clients are meeting each other from all over this great country, and they're talking about things that go on in business. And all I do is facilitate the, hey, here you are, introduce yourself, and just laugh with the rest of them. So we know socialization is working, and it's all in our head. So two-way conversation. Make sure you are not doing most of the talking. I am sorry, I'm giving the presentation. If you guys are tired of hearing my voice, type it in the box. Somebody else can take over. And again, that's why I keep asking you all questions is, how do we keep engaging you so that we can move forward? How do we get you to engage on this level? How do you get your people to engage? Awesome. All right. Communicate in ways that work best for others rather than your personal preference. We talked about this. How many of you guys remember what the golden rule is? All right. For all of you that might be a little bit older, like myself, what was the golden rule when you guys were growing up? Type it in the box, please, or take yourself off mute would be great.
Speak when spoken to?
Perfect.
Never mind.
Say that again, Lillian.
I said speak when spoken to, but maybe our house was different.
Oh no, we had that same rule at our house. At my house when I was growing up, do as you're told, not do as I say, not as I do. But it's perfect. Treat others like you want to be treated, right? That is the golden rule. The other one that we had is there's all kinds of golden rules. Speak when spoken to, but most importantly, if you haven't got anything nice to say, then for gosh sakes, shut the heck up, right? Just close your pie hole. Again, we need to lead others in the way that works best for them. I know Tanner's a data guy. When I send him this blasé, crazy stuff, he will consistently be like, okay, that's not working for me. We need to communicate with people in their level. Tanner is highly organized and highly disciplined. I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10 for organization, Tanner's somewhere about a 14, and I'm somewhere around a 3.5. That'll give you the distance we're in. But lead others in the way that works best for them. And all of us, including myself, need coaching from time to time. DISC, right? We talked about that. DISC is influential. I is for influence, D is for dominant. I is influential. Steadiness is S. Conscientious is C. Help identify where your team members are and how do we mesh together. Now, I can't go into an entire DISC seminar right now, but if you look at DISC, and I'll do it really quickly here. When you look at DISC is broken into, so D, I, S, C. You can read the words up here, but when we talk about communicating, what ends up happening is conflict, and vice versa. It goes all the way around the board here, right? So we must learn to communicate on those levels to help those around us. All right. 11, building trust at a distance doesn't happen by accident. Remote leadership means trust is harder to build and more easily broken. We must continue to have a common purpose. Do you and your team have the same purpose? Competence. Do you believe the people you lead are competent, right? And motives. Are we willing to go the extra mile? Through virtual leadership, motives have shifted, right? And when you have teams and we have people around us, regardless of it's banking, accounting, retail, we must make sure that everybody's motives are the same. Because I promise you today, as I sit here, if we are all about money, you will fail. You will absolutely fail in whatever you're trying to accomplish. Awesome. The more alignment of these three components, the more trust will exist. I love that, Francesca. We have all the letters in the office except for C. So we don't have a lot of highly organized people at the office? No? Okay. Awesome. All right, virtual leadership. Identify the leadership results you desire. This is part of it. You know, how many of you guys have ever walked into a meeting and made a list? These are the outcomes that I want. When you're selecting communication tools to achieve the results, we must identify where we're going. What are we trying to do? Business as usual is not the case anymore. For communication to be effective and appropriate, We need to have the balance, like I said, richness, one-to-one, tone, expression, body language, word of choice. I'm trying to keep my hands down today, guys. I feel like I'm all over the place. That's the Italian blood me. I mean, half the time, if these were in my pockets, I'd be a deaf mute. But we need to use that, right? It's the flexion. You guys hear when we do workshops, there's an algorithm. It's what are the words we want them to understand? How do we get them and our people and you all to follow along without boring you to tears? And please don't put, my hands are fine, thank you. And please don't put I'm boring you to tears. I would appreciate that today. My feelings might get a little hurt because I have a lot of I in me and I like to be liked by people. But we have to be mindful of what we were trying to get across, to whom, how richly it needs to be done. Make sense, everybody? Awesome. 13, maximize a tool's compatibility. I'm sorry. Right. Use the technology at your disposal. There are, oh my gosh, Join Me, there are WebEx, there are GoToMeeting, there are Teams, there are Zoom. Whatever works for you. I'm a Zoom guy. It works for me. If you have something in your team, please run to them and use the technology you have available. You don't have to go out and spend a lot of money, right? Choose the right tool for the job. Video and recorded message, common file locations, Dropbox, Google, Teams, share file, emails, webcams and video chats. Again, we talked about it, text messaging, telephones, and so forth. Seek feedback for best served outcomes for others. It's no different than this. As soon as we're done, there's going to be a survey, and I highly recommend the only way that I get better is by you guys judging what we're doing. So open and honest feedback for ourselves and others. Again, start with existing evidence in your office. Identify people you trust. Develop trusted advisors for those that you may not. Ask open-ended questions. If you're always asking, how are you? That's closed. Oh man, so tell me, how are you doing today? They have to, I'm good. Oh, is there anything that you need from me? You have to ask those questions that allow them to think that you actually care. Again, have them as much as possible. It takes time. Number 15, examine your beliefs in self-talk. Okay, so here's a question for y'all. How many of you on this call do a lot of Zoom where you get scared or you get a little fearful before you get into it? How many of you guys have that? Let's put it in the box. How many of you guys have that little bit of anxiety? No? We're all good? Perfect. All right. So again, when you start talking about self-beliefs, if you come into a meeting and you're, oh, I'm down and I don't feel good, what does the energy of the meeting look like? It's just, they're going to mimic that, right? We must self-talk. We must build ourselves up. We must be honest with ourselves, but we also must build ourselves up before we do leadership with any of our teams. Good leaders require a healthy self-image, not arrogant. So how many of you guys can tell me the difference between arrogant and ignorance?
Arrogant feels a little more malicious, and ignorant feels a little more, I don't know, pitiable to me, because you can kind of tell when somebody really just doesn't understand something versus when somebody's just bowling through it and they don't really care and there's sort of neglect to it almost.
Excellent. Anybody else have anything they'd like to add? Again, for ease of use, if you push the space bar, that takes you off mute just momentarily. That's good. So I always joke with people, but it's true. The difference between arrogance and ignorance is the person looking at the other people. It's perception. There's a fine line between it. So, warning signs to watch out for your self-talk. Oh, you're an idiot. I can't do this. I'm a fraud. I will be exposed. In this group, we're seeing everybody that they don't have that problem. So I love it. Ways to address the self-talk monster. Take out your head trash. It's interesting. We all carry around our head trash about something else. Nobody's ever told you you're an idiot. Well, maybe they have. But what we do is in business, we don't talk like that. We must accept positive feedback as valid. We can't just like, oh, it's not a big deal. No, you did a great job today, Lillian. You did a great job, Angela. We must always, in Virginia, I see you at the bottom there now. Sorry, I just slid my screen up. But how do we keep putting the self-talk monster in the closet? It's by positive reinforcements. Accept that you can't do it all. Find a balance between being responsible to your organization and taking care of yourself. Look at your organization's process and workflow. Identify areas where the team could have handled your activities and delegate effectively and successfully. Well, let me go back. And most importantly, all here on this call, write this down. Resign yourself as general manager of the universe. Everybody else's problems are not yours. They are not yours. Resign yourself. The only person that you can control is you. And I promise you, I am learning that in spades every day. Balance your priorities to be a remarkable long distance leader. Know the difference between self-preservation and selfishness. Your values determine how you decide what is truly important. Everyone has the same amount of time. The question is, how will you use it? How many of you guys believe in work balance? Type it in the box. Got a yes? Anybody else? Haha, nice try. Love that. Yes. So let me be crystal clear with this really quickly. It's called self-management. All of us have 24 hours in the day. It's not time management. It is this. If you want balance, go buy a teeter-totter. You want a better life and work balance, make better choices. Now, I know some of you are like, oh God, he's being a dick today. Excuse my terminology, but I speak freely. The fact of the matter is, we all have to make better choices. Knowing your values allow you to prioritize your activities. And I will tell you this right now, it has been proven time and time again, business owner after business owner after business owner. You can be good at your family, you can be good at your work, you can be good at religion, you can be good at anything you want, but you're only going to be good at 3 of them. So I know a lot of people here are like, well, I have 4 or 5 priorities. Well, what are your values? Family, friends, faith. I don't care what it is, but you got to pick 3 that you're going to focus on all the time, especially when it comes to your teams. Love it. Thank you, Angela. You're on that not my circus, not my monkeys train of thought. All right. All right, here we go. Ensure your leadership development prepares long distance leaders. You're here today. I thank you immensely. I thank the SBDC for having us so that we can help you move forward. Again, what kind of an organization do you want to be? Does your culture match your vision? What behaviors do you expect from your people? What skill gaps do you need to work on? What is your plan for developing and supporting your long distance leaders? Again, you're doing this today. The question is for you right now, and I want you to take a minute here. And if anybody wants to hum, perfect time for it. But I want you to write down, what are your 2 areas that you want to work with in your leadership? What are your 2 areas? I guess I could hum the theme to Jeopardy if you guys are really bold, but I probably shouldn't. What are your 2 areas that you want to work on for your leadership? Everybody getting stuff done there? Perfect. All right. Sorry. Remember rule number 1 for rule 19. Think about leadership first and location second. As leaders, we need to do the same thing, just in a different way. We are the leaders who need to lead in our business and in our community. Now let's get leading. All right. So here's what I want you guys to do. If you guys could take all yourselves off of mute, I'd really appreciate it. If not, we'll have you type in the box. Again, what areas do you need to take action in? Let's do this. List 5 ideas you need to take action on today. We talked about the 2 that already are going to your leadership. So what are the other 3?
Personally, I can think of 2 that I really need to work on really hard, which is fearlessness in the face of judgment or perceived judgment, and to celebrate even the smallest success.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Thank you very much for sharing. Anybody else like to share? No? All right. So here's what we want to talk about now. I'm going to take it. That is the end of our presentation. What I would like to do is I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to be here for questions. All right. So Francesca has just put in a survey form. And again, we don't get any better if we don't know. So thank you very much. Again, as always, we want you guys to run into the SBDC and get signed up, or if you're already part of their programs, see if you qualify for one of our 4 programs that we're working with the SBDC and the team here. So let's get them a call. Any questions?
If it's easier for you to ask a question, feel free to take yourself off mute. Again, I want to relay what Andy stated. If you have a second, please take our survey. She's going to ask you questions about how we did, if there's anything that maybe you want to see in the future. If you are not an SBDC client and would like to become one, you're more than welcome to sign up. It is at no cost since we're federal, state, and locally funded. If you are not within our area, again, you can shoot me an email and I will find the closest SBDC to your area that you can go ahead and sign up with. We will be meeting back again next Tuesday, same time, with Andy and Tanner for our next workshop series. The workshop link to register for the upcomings is included there. And again, I will be sending out a follow-up email with the PowerPoint and their contact information. And if nobody has any questions, go ahead, Andy.
I would like to add, if you have a business owner friend and you found value in this, please bring them along. Like I said, the idea here is how do we get us all to the next level? How do we get us all through all of the challenges through COVID-19, 2020, and apparently 2021. So we're just going to keep rolling right through this. But again, the goal is to help all business owners move forward.
Exactly. And with that, if anybody does not have any questions, we will go ahead and conclude. And I do appreciate you all for taking the time out to join us today.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having us. We appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody.